Okay, so let's delete that and we'll run another circle, lots of circles. Center of circle 0, diameter 20 millimeters, enter. Yep, happy with that. Now this time I'm going to run an arc. So this is our arc menu here. If I cascade that out, this third one along, arc, start, end, direction at start. This is one I like using. So I'll select that. Our start of arc is going to be 0. I'm going to bring that up here, and I'm just going to bring that out to maybe about there. Okay, let's mirror that across. And the y-axis, okay, that's nice. And I'm going to, what do I want to do? I want to rotate that. I'm going to type rotate, center of rotation being 0, bring that up and 45 degrees, lovely. And I want to select both of those and join those. So now we've got a closed curve. And I'm going to offset this. I'll just type offset, and I want to offset that on the middle. And you can see the distance we're offsetting is 1.8, and if I change that to say 1.4, it gives us a little bit of a finer edge there. Then I can select this and do a polar array. The command is array polar. There it is, array polar. Center of polar array being 0 and number of items being 4. And that's a nice way of getting a sort of this petal shaped design, I guess. What we can do is, because we've got history enabled, if we want to change the way that this shape is, remember that when we offset this inner section, this is also has a history enabled. This is also a relationship. It's a child of this outside curve here, which is the parent. And you'll see that when I move that, they all move. So I want to perhaps, I don't know, maybe make that a little bit longer, push it to the outside of that 20 millimeter circle. I want to scale that out, if you will. So let's type scale. And you can see we've got some options here. Scale, scale 1D and scale 2D. I just want to scale it in one direction. So I'm going to scale, hit that button from this point here to that point there. And I can either type in a numerical scale amount, say 1.1. Sorry, that's actually giving us a measurement. We know that it's 10 millimeters from the center circle to the outside edge, so maybe 11. That's going to make that 11 millimeters long. And you can see we're starting to refine that shape there a little bit. If I want to bring this in narrower, this is a little bit more tricky because we can't, or I guess we've got no center point for us to scale from. There is a snap down here called center. And if we enable that and then select that and do a scale 1D, then that will allow us to snap to the, it's not going to want us to, okay. So it's not letting us snap to the center of this section here. Center, I think, is probably best going to work for a circle. And you can see as I approach the outside edge of this circle, it's snapping to the center. But yeah, that's not too helpful in this case. So let's uncheck that and press escape to terminate that command. And what I want to do now is just make a polyline from a midpoint here to the midpoint here. So that's going to be our reference line for the scale. And I'm going to come down to transform. And I'm sure we've got a scale button here somewhere. Ah, there it is, scale 3D and 2D. If I cascade that out, I'm sure we can scale 1D. So in this instance, I prefer to just type scale 1D rather than have all of these cascading menus, but you'll see that the effect is the same. So the base point here, I want to come to the middle of this line that we made, come out to the edge, and then I can just scale that in and scale that out as I like. We're done with that curve now, so we can delete that, and I want to trim off all of these overlapping center parts here. So I can select all of those and come to our trim button or type trim, and we can either go around and just sort of click each of them individually, or I can just select all of them like that and press enter. And you can see that our child objects here are now updating because our parents were trimmed. So you can see our children there we want to maintain what they were like. So I'll Control Z, and I'm going to select these 4 items here, and I want to break their history. I want to remove that relationship, stop them from being child objects. So I can do that by moving them up, and now we know that history is broken on those, but they're also now out of position. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the command break history, and I've break, let's try history purge, that's the command I was thinking of, history purge. And you can see that we've removed the history from those 4 objects. Now if I select this outside one, the outer curves are still moving because they've still got the history enabled, but our inner curves have had that history broken on them. Control Z to do that. Now I'm going to select children and run our trim command. And now when I trim off those center overlapping parts and press enter, then our inner sections here, they are going to stay the same. They're not going to be affected by what we're doing with the trimming. Now let's join those up. I'm going to type join, and you can see that over here in our object properties, we've got a closed curve, and up in the command bar here, you can see we've got 4 curves joined into one closed curve. Okay, so now we've got this sort of nice petal style shape, and we can take this a little bit a step further. Let's say we want to make a nice pendant. Let's make some more sort of parts to this. So we'll come over to our curve command, and I'm just going to do some freestyling. Okay, that's pretty inspiring. I'm going to mirror that across the y-axis, and then I can do a polar array, which is the command is array polar, center of polar array being 0, number of items being 4. Yay! Awesome. I'm going to select both of those and join. And although I've joined that one, these ones are now still separate, because although we've joined the parents, that's actually broken the history on our child objects. But I'm going to select all of those and join those together, and that's fine. Now if all of those are closed. If I was really particular about maintaining the history, I can just delete those and do a polar array for that center, or for that first one. And now we've got history enabled on all of those. So if I want to do things like this, we can. So we can offset that again. I'm going to type offset. The distance 1.4, let's go 1.2, a little bit slimmer. Press enter. Oops, sorry. I need to click on the direction actually rather than pressing enter. And you can see that this one here doesn't quite extend to the edge here. We can fix that by coming over to this button here and cascading this out. This is our curve tools. And if we come down here to this button here, we've got a couple of options to either extend curve if I left mouse click, or right mouse click gives us the option to extend a curve to a boundary. So I'm going to right mouse click, and we're going to be asked for a boundary object. I'm going to select this because we want to extend this curve to this part here. So if I select that and press enter, and then I select the curve that I want to extend, being this one here, and you can see that's automatically just jumped across there. Now we can also select this one here, and that's done the same. Press enter when done. I'm done. And now you can see that that does sort of come back up and join onto those. I'll select that and run a polar array from 0, number of items being 4, and we're starting to fill out our pattern a little bit more. So I think the last thing we'll do is we'll put a little diamond shaped shape in the center of this design. So come over to here, hit this rectangle, and if I click anywhere and hold shift, that's going to constrain it into a square shape. If I'm not holding shift, that will allow us to make a free rectangle. So I'll hold shift and just drag that out. If I want that to be, say, 1 millimeter, I can just type 1 and enter. And then if I type enter again, it's going to use the length as the width. So it's going to make it square. Now let's say I want to move this to the center here, and it's not really going to happen. I could put in a point at 0, and then I could change this to a snappy dragging and just drag that to that point. That's not going to work actually because I don't have this on. So I'll toggle our point snap on, and now I can snap to that. And I can hold shift while dragging one of these squares, and I might want to turn smooth dragging back on so it's not going to start snapping to any of this. So that's one way of moving that to a center. Another way would be to arrange or orient this on our y-axis and on our x-axis. So to do that, I can come up to transform, and it is align, and I want to align the horizontal center, and press enter. Don't know what's happened there, sorry. I'll right mouse button to run that again. So horizontal center from the alignment point. Oh, I guess I push 0 enter and run that command again, and this time it's the vertical center, and that is 0 enter. So now we've got our center at the horizontal center and the vertical center. Now let's say I want to rotate this 45 degrees. If I grab this blue box here and I want to snap or constrain that to a 45 degree angle, well, that's only going to snap to 90 degree increments, and that's not very helpful because being a square, it looks identical no matter which way we rotate that. If I just come over to this blue arc and just click once, we're going to have this little dialog box come up. And if I type 45, it's going to know that that's a 45 degree angle that it wants rotated. So hit enter, and there it is. So let's save our design by coming over to File, Save As, and I might call this, say, flower pattern, and I'm going to save that as a Rhino 5 model, just in case any of you are working on Rhino 5. It's going to look virtually the same as what I've got here. I'm actually using Rhino 7, which is a work in progress version that's not out yet as the time of recording. So chances are you'll be either working on Rhino 5 or Rhino 6. I'm going to save that as a Rhino 5 model just to ensure that it's backward compatible if you are using Rhino 5. But for you, when you're saving, you can just save it as the version that you're working on. So Rhino 5 and hit save.